Hello, how are we doing?
Good.
Good. We wanted to have a conversation today with you and have the conversation serve two reasons. One, as you know, you've been doing a lot of work through our birth parent groups and through your individual work. We want to help you continue to work through your trauma and how that's impacted you as a parent. And we also want to continue to build off of some tools to have for both our staff or other birth parents that might go through similar things as you. As an agency, I think you've heard us talk about that trauma-informed care is one of our huge guidelines that we deal with. And through trauma-informed care, there was a study called the ACE study for adverse childhood experiences. So we're gonna kind of touch upon some of the situations that might have added to your trauma that you may have or may have not experienced as a child. Okay?
Yes.
So can you start off by telling me your name and how old you are?
Katrina Janair, 29.
Okay. And are your children currently residing with you?
No, they're not.
Where are they located?
They're in foster care.
Okay. Is this their first time that your kids have been in foster care?
No.
And for this current time, how long have they been out of your home?
A little over a month.
Okay. Is there other parent involved in their life right now?
When he wants to be.
Okay. All right, that makes it a little hard sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The next series of questions is going to really focus on you as a child and what you experienced as a child. So these are going to be right from that study that we call the ACE study. Okay?
Yep.
So the first question is, did a parent or adult in your household very often or often swear at you, insult you, put you down, or humiliate you, or act in any type of way that made you afraid that you might be physically hurt?
Very often.
Very often that happened.
Yes.
Did a parent or adult in the household often or very often push, grab, slap, or throw something at you, or even hit you so hard that you had marks or were injured?
Very often.
Did an adult or person at least 5 years older than you ever touch or fondle you, or have you touched their body in a sexual way?
Yes. But not in my home with my parents, my biological parents.
But as a child that happened
Yeah.
to you. Did you often or very often feel that no one in your family loved you or thought you were important or special? Or your family didn't look out for you or each other or feel close to each other or support each other?
I would say often.
So that happened also?
It happened a lot, but we're close. But I mean, there was a lot of displayed the wrong anger, wrong places, at the wrong people.
So a lot of that, how you handle emotions and when they're upset was often taken out on each other?
Yeah.
Even though you guys were supportive of each other and you loved each other,
Yeah.
there was often a lot of conflict within your home?
Yeah.
Did you often or very often feel that you didn't have enough to eat or had to wear dirty clothes or had no one to protect you? Or that your parents were too drunk or too high to take care of you or take you to the doctor if you needed it?
Often.
Were your parents separated or divorced?
They were together, just not healthy together.
That makes sense. Was your mother or stepmother often or very often pushed, grabbed, slapped, or had something thrown at her?
My mother as a child?
No, your mother, like when you were growing up, was there domestic violence in your house?
Yes,
Yes, there was.
very often.
Did you live with anyone in your house growing up that was a problem drinker or an alcoholic who used street drugs?
Yes, my dad.
Was a household member depressed or mentally ill, or did a household member attempt suicide?
Yes, my mother.
And did a household member ever go to prison?
No.
So those are the 10 things that we generally ask that kind of guide our trauma. So those are their guidelines. Obviously, I would assume that there was a lot more details that happened with that. Some of those things maybe happened one time, and some of those things happened on a lifetime over and over and over again, and that impacts you. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
How do you feel your childhood impacts you now as a parent?
I have a really hard time of expressing my feelings and communicating with other people that I care about. And I'm not good at expressing my anger sometimes, whether it's just simple yelling at my kids or yelling at somebody else, or if I can't find something, I'll kick something or throw something, and I mean, I know that's not healthy for my kids to see.
And because then you connect the dots for yourself that you grew up with that, so sometimes that's what you resort to. Those are the patterns of life that you've seen.
Yes.
And you, at some point in your life, I have acknowledged that you know that that's not healthy, right?
Oh, yeah.
But does that mean it's easy for you to not do it?
No.
Because what gets in the
Definitely
way? What gets in the way of you, even though you know something's wrong, to stop yourself from doing it?
I would say like maybe it's the heat of the moment that, you know, I think about it after, and I mean, I wish I could have done things different or handled it different, but at that point in time, I'm not good at using my tools to calm myself down.
When you were growing up, did you always live at home with your parents? Or were you ever removed from your home or placed in residential treatment or anything like that?
I was removed from my home
Yeah.
at age 12.
And how long were you gone for?
Until I was a week before I turned 18.
So 6 years?
Yeah.
Did you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes.
How many?
I have 5 sisters and 4 brothers.
Okay. Were any of them also removed from your home?
Pretty much all of them.
Alright. When you guys were removed from your home, was it to your understanding as a child or now looking back because of your behaviors or because of your parents' inabilities to care for you?
I think it was both. I was removed. My mother did have a nervous breakdown, and she did place some of her kids in foster care, but me and my older sister were already on pins, so the courts kind of took us because of our behaviors in school. And when my mom got her other kids back, I was not allowed to go back because of my behaviors in foster care and school, so.
So when you guys were taken out of your home, it sounds like some of that happened at different times, like some of you removed and some of you.
Yes.
For the groups of you that were taken out at the same time, were you placed together or were you separated?
Yeah, we were placed together.
You were placed together. When you look at your situations now as an adult, with your relationships with your brothers or your sisters or your parents, what are those relationships like now?
I think we're all close. We probably don't know how to, I don't know, I'm not good at still expressing my feelings with my family. I mean, to a point, but they're supportive of what I'm trying to do now, and they're supportive of where I have been, so.
Good. Is there anything else about your just childhood or growing up in general that jumps to your mind when you think about you as a parent now and your trauma in general that you would want to share?
Just probably addiction. My parents were active users, and they used to use drugs with me and my older sister, which I'm sure now they probably regret it, but as a child, you know, I was young, so I really didn't know. I could say no, but you know, influence, and it's your parents asking you, telling you, hey, come on, smoke. So to see that play out in my life as I'm an adult, have a problem with addiction and mental health and foster care. So think of it, yeah, definitely has a big part of me growing up.
And so just to clarify again, so you're 12, 13 years old, maybe younger, and your parents, because they were actively using, were inviting you to use with them.
Yeah, I was 14 the first time, like my parents asked me and my sister to smoke a joint. They didn't really ask. They knew we kind of were already smoking, but, you know, still, like, I feel like, you know, as a parent, you shouldn't be like, yeah, come on, you're already getting high. In a way, I understand, like, my mom's been in a lot of parenting classes to where, like, your kids are gonna do things regardless if you don't like it or not. So my parents' thought at that moment was, let's let her smoke home and smoke with us rather than being on the streets to who knows what they're putting in the drugs. Even though it was wrong, but I think it's
Right. It's one of the decisions your parents made, right?
Yeah.
And now you as a parent sitting here thinking about the notion of if your oldest child got to be a certain age of being like, hey, do you want to smoke up?
I definitely wouldn't make that. I want my kids to like know about addiction, because I see like, yeah, my drug choice is marijuana, but it obviously is a big problem because of the situations I keep getting myself into over and over and over and over.
And has marijuana led to other things?
Oh yeah, I've done a lot of drugs when I couldn't get high off marijuana. I resorted to other drugs that I'm not proud of, but I'm not ashamed of neither, because it's all part of addiction and your life.
And how, again, either you as an adult or looking at your parents, because addiction, like you're touching upon, spreads out in so many different ways. What other venues or areas, whether it was mental health or housing or financial or relationships, domestic violence, what other ways do you see the substance abuse for either you as an adult and struggling with it or your parents impacting?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Wait.
I didn't say that right. So basically, you started to touch upon how your substance abuse impacted you in a lot of different ways. It wasn't just about getting high, that led you to making other choices and other areas of your life being impacted. Can you share what some of their...
Engaging in unhealthy relationships, domestic violence, mental breakdowns, and
Do you feel, Katrina, that people who abuse substances tend to form groups within the groups, such as, our friends are doing it, so that's their group of friends are all doing it. Do you feel because you used different drugs that it's easier to be in that group or associated with that section
Like it's
of people?
normal?
Like
It's
it's
normal
a
with those
norm,
groups, is what
right,
you
it's
guys
a norm
Definitely.
for you, right?
Do you find yourself, you personally, using to self-medicate?
I think it's a lot, has a lot, I think really about addiction. I don't think it's the drug alone that makes you an addict, it's your feelings. Like when we use, we don't wanna feel something, so for me, it's my depression or a lot of guilt I have from past actions and decisions I've made that just, instead of feeling the pain emotionally, I use so I didn't have to feel it.
Did you see your parents doing similar things?
Definitely.
Did
Yeah.
your parents struggle with their mental health?
Mental health, addiction,
Did you,
just living on a daily basis and our daily needs not being met because my dad was an alcoholic and that was his main focus, was working just to support his habit.
do you feel there's more programs and services in place now? Do you think if your parents would have had services or programs or supports, or that they would have maybe made different choices, or do you think because they were both enabling each other, it was what the family did as a unit?
I think a little bit of both. I mean, cause there can be all the programs you need, but going to them and doing them, that was like my father's problem. Like he can have programs, but he wouldn't go to them. My mother, on the other hand, she could. She went to programs and tried, but I think it had a lot to do with their upbringing too, growing up. They weren't, and I do definitely see a change from the stories I hear from my mom and dad into their parenting. Like, their abuse that they endured growing up was a lot more worse than my abuse from them that I endured. And I mean, my kids don't get physically abused because of my abuse growing up. So I see like the pattern, the less abuse, and then,
So every generation has gotten better, but every generation has had their own trauma and their own ways that they've tried to learn with what they have and take those tools and try and be better than the last set of parents were.
definitely,
But still coming with their own baggage to the
Mhm.
plate as you start off as a parent,
yeah,
right? How old were you when your first child was born?
17.
So again, a lot of 17-year-olds in general don't have the preparation in life maybe to be a parent, and then you take that in combination with the trauma. I mean, what were you feeling when you were preparing to be a parent for the first time?
Well, I actually didn't live home at that time. I lived out in Albany in a community maternity service center for pregnant teens. So like when I was out there, I did good and they helped me prepare for it, and there was like everybody was like me. We were all teen parents, so we were new at it. Honestly, I maybe don't agree with decisions I've made now that I'm an adult, but I do think that having my kid at 17 did save me from, because the way I grew up, I probably, if I didn't have my kid, there was probably a whole nother life of partying and drugs that I probably would have turned to harder drugs. I don't want to make marijuana any less than or seem better because it's actually the same, but I think my kid, you know, even though I did smoke marijuana, having him and stuff, it did save me from, you know, doing dope or crack and,
Mm-hmm.
Other illegal activities.
Absolutely. It grounded you for a little while, gave you some hope,
Yeah.
all of those things. Okay. Anything else, just thinking about your childhood growing up, that you want to share or think is important? And we can come back to it too. If something comes to your head, just, you know, we'll get there. I wanted to switch gears a little bit and talk about now your role as a parent having a child in the system. And in general, your relationship with the House of Good Shepherd and what things are good and what things need to be better in that venue of things. Does that make sense?
yes.
Okay. So, to your understanding, why did your children leave your home?
Well, I relapsed, started using again.
Okay. So were there already services in place that were monitoring you and your relationship with your kids and your parenting?
When they were home,
Yeah.
yes,
You ready
there
for
was, I felt for me that it wasn't a big help though.
Okay.
When I asked for help, I didn't get the help I needed immediately because I felt like it was a process to them when I asked them for help, that they had to do so many steps rather than getting my kids safe immediately so I can take care of what I needed to take care of.
So you felt as though right before they were removed that you were trying to work with whoever you were working with and asking for help, and that didn't happen as fast as you had hoped for.
Yes.
Is
You
that
knew
right?
you were slipping.
Oh yeah.
You felt the
Oh,
trigger.
yeah.
You felt the triggers and you knew you were
Very
slipping.
adamant of asking for help, and you know, and where I am now at Johnson Park, they did help me in every way that they could beyond their line of what they're supposed to do. They helped me, but like the outside people I had in my life, there's
Okay.
only so
Mhm.
much. If I need to go to a 28-day rehab, Johnson Park can't keep my kids for 28 days.
Right.
I needed to temporarily place them in foster care, which never happened. Eventually they just took them because I didn't get the help I wanted, and I seen my addiction going back, and then eventually I just started ignoring phone calls because I was already busy getting high.
And I would imagine that feels really overwhelming. To
Yeah.
know, especially if we're talking about this most recent time, you know what it's like to have your children removed from you.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you're saying you knew it was inevitable. You were in that learned helplessness mode. Like, I'm gonna sit back. Whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
In fact, in one of our sessions, Katrina expressed that we had a one-on-one, and you actually had said that to me, that was your feelings almost of that helplessness, and you knew that was definitely happening.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough when we get there. So with all that being said, would you say that you were in agreement with your children needing to come into care at that time?
Definitely.
Tell me about the day your kids actually left, or you left if it was to go to rehab. Tell me about that day, your feelings, how the day kind of went. Were you surprised?
Wasn't there when they took my kids. I was at my other sister's house when they removed my kids from their dad's house. So I wasn't there. I'm glad I wasn't, because I have been been the one to be there when they removed my kids. But I mean, I was sad after. Honestly, when things was going on around that time, I was using, so I didn't really feel the emotions that I probably really felt, because I kept using. Once them emotions, I would start feeling them, I'd use, so I didn't feel.
And is it fair to say that, going back to what we were just talking about, you were just waiting for that alarm to go out, like the ticking? Like, someday they're coming to take my kids.
Yes.
If I keep staying high, then I'm not gonna feel for the day that they actually come.
Yes.
So was there almost a little bit of relief on the day that they actually were removed?
Yeah.
Would you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And going back to the other days when you were home, so on the other time when you saw them, what feelings did you go through?
A lot of guilt. Resentful.
It's okay. Could anybody have done anything different or better for you to make that day better for you?
Probably not. Because, I mean, people did try to stop it from going that far, but with my addiction, I just didn't care.
It's tough to see through the lines, right?
Yeah.
Right. Do you forgive yourself now?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's always gonna be emotional. I have kids that are adopted out that I still get emotional about, but I don't regret my decisions because it is who I am today. They made me who I am today. Maybe if I can go back, I definitely would make different decisions in life.
Mhm.
But
It leads you
Right.
to where you are now, though,
Mhm.
yeah,
and you have to look at the strength from that. You have to see that.
In regards to your relationship with the House of Good Shepherd specifically, so what were your interactions like with the House of Good Shepherd during that first day or first week that your kids were in care?
there wasn't a lot of communication on my part. My worker did try to communicate and set up appointments to see her, but I just wouldn't show up because I was too busy using.
Mhm. How did that change? What caused the change? Because you're here, so you're
Yeah,
communicating with us now.
um,
You made some right decisions.
guess I just had enough. I wanted to get my kids back. Before they left, I was unsure if I even wanted to be a parent. I think it was just stress, like building up that and not having their dad's help.
Mhm.
So I was like, I would tell the reverend, I don't even know if I want to be a mother. And then when they left, and when I finally started thinking about like, I do. I want my kids more than I want to just go out and just be me and use and do what I want without the baggage of my kids. But I'd rather have that baggage and go to bed at night and be like, oh, it's 'cause one day it will be worth it. I know right now it's hard, of course, with a 3-year-old, 2-year-old, and a 1-year-old, but eventually they're gonna be older and they won't need so much of my help and they can do things a little more on their own.
You're gonna be very proud of them, Mom.
Yeah.
They really will be, because you're doing a great job.
You really do take the steps in the right direction,
You really
and I think what I want to continue to praise you for is that you take responsibility for your decisions and you try and learn from them for the next time. And I
Yeah.
don't know, I mean, did it take you a while to be able to do that, or did that come fairly naturally?
I mean, I think I always take responsibility for my decisions. My kids that are adopted out, I don't wanna lie to them. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest to them because I feel even as my parents were always honest with me, regardless of our dysfunctional family and upbringing, they've always were honest about their past
Mhm.
and their life. I just think that, in order to let my kids know
Mhm.
who I am is to be honest.
Mhm. Absolutely.
I just don't want them making the same mistakes.
And you're on the right track to continue doing that. You've made reference to some of your supports in your life, whether it's been your worker or it's been the people at Johnson Park, at Reverend, families. What about your relationship with the foster parent? Do you wanna talk
I
about that?
have a really good relationship with their foster parent. That was the second time they went with her, so I mean, there's really good communication and like personal communication too. It's not just strictly about the kids and their plan of what's going on at House of the Shepherds. And we actually have conversations about our life.
So it's a personal relationship, it's not
Yes.
just a formal agreement?
Yeah,
Does the foster parent ask how you're doing?
definitely. She asks and tells me to call if I need anything.
How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel good, definitely, to know that, somebody's taking the time out or goes the extra mile or their duties to either help me or my kids.
Go ahead.
Knowing that they're in a place that is safe and you feel comfortable, does that help you in your process to get healthy yourself?
Definitely.
So you can focus more on yourself, knowing that your children are your children, you can see it when they come, they love their mother. So you know that, they're being well taken care of, so it definitely gives you a sense of
Yes.
wellness. And
It sounds like you have a really close relationship with this foster parent. Have you heard from anybody else or had any experiences of things that foster parents do that are hurtful to the process?
I've had kids that were in myself in foster care with like not good foster parents.
What are things that you think makes a foster parent not good? That
I think bashing the parents of that child, abusing, whether it's emotional, sexual, physical, mental, verbal. I think that would probably be the main things.
Agreed. Do you feel like the staff that you're working with, whether it's Denise or your case manager, do you feel like they were attempting to engage you in treatment?
Yeah.
What were some of the things that they were doing that made you feel like they were actually trying to engage you in treatment?
Sending referrals, making some appointments for me, picking me up for things, calling me right when if I called them and left a message, I always called right back.
So the little things?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what it comes down to.
What's up, you? We only have about